Guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures, and today we're doing another episode of our Accurate Dinosaur mod collection. This will be part 6, I believe, where we take a look at models that have mods that people have made that try to make the animals in the game more accurate to their real-life counterparts, plus by adding a few new dinosaurs and such. It's quite interesting and fun. Now, a lot of these mods today are going to be models that were originally made for Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, and a mod called Advanced Operation Genesis, which was made by Jagged Fan Designs. So there'll be a lot of really interesting new models that'll be added today, plus a couple new things. I don't want to ruin it, but it's quite fun to have a look, and hopefully you guys enjoy this video. So we're going to get started. We'll start with an animal that is replaced by Brontosaurus. I'll just let it play and I'll tell you what it is. Ooh. Now let's get into capture mode. This is an animal called Jinzhousaurus, which is a hadrosaurid dinosaur from the early Cretaceous of China. And looking at it now, we'll wait for him to see. Look at the real detail in this model. I quite like how this one came out. This is one of the newer Jagged Fang design models, and you can really tell the improvement from the younger to the earlier, like the oldest to the younger models. You can really see the improvement here. Now I really like this one. I really like the colors as well. I like this blue on the nose here. I really like that here. And all the splotch patterning coming around here. We'll just let him run for a bit. He's making his way over to the water. So see, have a look at him drink and see how it fits. It actually fit quite well. I really like how this one came out. You can see it's pretty good in terms of accuracy. Jagged Fang Designs always researches their things. And we can see the toes. Looks quite nice. Very similar, like a hand organization to iguanodonts. Because it originally thought to be an iguanodont, but as more recent studies show, it's very basal member, like a very early member of hadrosaurs. May not be a very interesting dinosaur in terms it has no weird crest and such, but it has very important implications for how all dinosaurs relate to each other. So it's a very interesting animal. Plus, I just like the look of it. This model does it justice. It looks very nice. Then watch him have it eats. And a little look around the other side. Quite a cutie. Okay, now we'll move on to the next one. Here we've got, not replacing anything, this is Jagged Fang Designs Ouranosaurus. So let's have a look at this guy. Actually looks quite nice. Wait for him to make his way over to get a drink. They seem to like going to get their drinks. He's running. I like how they run. Okay, let's get a look at him. Now I really like how this is one of the early ones. I think the texture just looks a little flat on this one, but that makes sense because a lot of these models are actually pretty old. Some of the older models, because this originally made, it's been going basically from 2017 to the late 2019. So there's a big discrepancy in the quality of some of these models, and you can kind of tell it just because this one's a lot of a younger one, but it still looks quite good. In terms of anatomy, it's pretty spot on. There is some new information coming out with sale though that shows that it was a lot more rounded, but that's unpublished information that was not known when it came out, so I can excuse that because a lot of these models are not made for this game now. It was made for Operation Genesis. So watch a lovely girl have a drink. I really like the colours on this one as well. I really like the yellow and brown patterning. I like the earthy tones that they often give these models. And I really like how they did the head and all that. And I like how they did the soft tissue of the sails, so it doesn't like you can see every single ridge of the vertebra. It's like just one more. It's not like a huge hump, but it's just more solid. I think that looks quite nice. Watch her have a run. Where's she going? Oh. Excuse me, that was a burp. Oh, look at that cutie. I like the face. Very, very cute face. You can see this is more of an iguanodontid, you could say. Having num-nums. Quite a long long snout this guy has. Looks quite good. I like it. I like it. I like the patterns and all that. Just wish the textures were a little better, but you win some, you lose some. Now here we've got one from my friend Wheat that he remade the Pachycephalosaurus. He just made it a little bit more accurate to what we know and added. There's two versions that you can get of this one. You can get the normal skin, just the normal in-game skin that looks like the Lost World Pachycephalosaurus, or you can get the website skin, which I'm about to showcase now. So here we are. So now if we grab this and go to the compare to the original, I'll just let you stay there for a minute. We can see here that a lot of the change here. The body's made a lot more barrel shaped, and we can see the hands have been edited to not look like those weird people hands they had. And also the tail's been greatly elongated, and also the face has made some huge changes. You can see the snout's been elongated, a lot of changes in the head, it's a lot wider. It's just weird how it applies to the rig, but you can't change the rig, so yeah. I do quite like how this one came out though. Watch her have a drink. See that long tail, kangaroo-like? Quite cute actually. You can see around the back as well, you can see the edits with the little knobs and such around the back of the skull. And the neck's been greatly thickened up. There's a lot of pretty big changes. And I really like how the website skin look, because the website one done by Julius Cittoni is actually pretty accurate to what we know. What have you done? You're starting to kerfuffle, or you're just having a walk. Quite cute actually. We'll should have a little feast. Probably a pretty hungry gal. Nope. So you can definitely see the changes if you compare this to the original. I think Wheat did a good job with this one. It's just, yeah. Sometimes I think it might be better just to import in your model. But I like this edit, they did a pretty good job. I like the sounds it makes, the groans and grunts and things like that. It gives the animal a lot of character. So now we'll be moving on to the next one. We've got here, this isn't Gallimimus, but I'll just wait to reveal it like this. Now, but you're thinking this isn't really looking like a dinosaur, but this is actually an elephant bird, which is from Madagascar. They only went around extinct probably about 1,000 years or so. This specific species is Aepyornis maximus, which is probably one of the larger elephant birds. Got around 400-500 kilos. Very, very big birds. Basically the equivalents of giraffes in their habitat of Madagascar, where they lived with also crocodiles, giant hippos, dwarf hippos, dwarf hippos, giant lemurs and such. So it was really interesting environment, like just 1,000 years ago, how interesting places like Madagascar, New Zealand and such, with having these big birds around. But believe it or not, the closest living relative is not anything you'd find in Africa, like ostrich. The closest living relative to Aepyornis, or Aepyornis, however you pronounce it, is actually the kiwi from New Zealand, which puzzled a lot of people, because obviously how would a small flightless bird from New Zealand manage to get its way to Madagascar, which is basically 2 continents and an ocean away. So it was really found that they split off pretty early when all those continents were still connected in Gondwana land, or Gondwana. So we're going to watch her have a drink. The only really inaccurate thing I could say about this is just the speed of its running, because it's a very hefty big animal and didn't really need to run a lot from predators, so I assume it wouldn't be running around too much. Yeah, this is actually pretty much probably one of the youngest animals in the game. Only becoming extinct about couple thousand years ago, if that. So this was probably hunted to extinction by people moving to Madagascar, along with a lot of the other giant lemurs and such, because I think humans have a bit of a knack for invading ecosystems and killing megafauna. I think this one looks quite pretty. Peck, peck. Very beautiful animal. Oh. I like how they did the texture as well. You can really see the feathers and such. And it fits pretty well on the rig. Surprisingly well on the rig. So look at that walk away. What a sassy stride. Okay. So we'll sort out our elephant bird. Now we're going to sort out our Nigersaurus. We're gonna go into our wait for him to grab a drink. There we gotta go. Now we can see the huge differences this makes to the in-game model. You can see like it's a lot skinnier, a lot longer. It's a very interesting animal, Nigersaurus. There's been a lot of changes made to... This is actually a pretty recent one. This was made like early last year. So you can really tell the textures have improved. Nigersaurus is pretty famous for having a pretty weird head. You can see here it's got like a weird down-turned head. And actually in this reconstruction, based on a lot of evidence of stuff recently, they actually put like a pseudo beak on it, because there's a lot of evidence that have coming out for a lot of sauropods that they have some sort of hard keratin covering, or some sort of hard covering over their mouths. Whether it's not a true beak or just whatever it is, we don't really know for sure, but it's pretty interesting to see that we can find evidence of that in the fossil record. And we can see how like different it is. Like, look at I really like how they did the spikes as well. I like the spikes. It adds down the back. It adds a lot of character. And we can see it's just made a lot skinnier, not quite as wide as the original. You can see it's got quite skinny legs now. Not as wide and bulky. Accurate feet as well. You know how I like my feet. See, it's also changed the back legs as well. Probably one of the better sauropods so far. See the long tail as well. I think they did a really good job with this Nigersaurus. Also lives in the same formation as Ouranosaurus. Quite a nice looking beauty she is. And I like this yellowish brown tone that they added to it. I quite like this one. So now we're going to be moving on to next one here. So there's none here. We're going to move on to this one so we can see even more lovely herbivores. So here we've got a remake also by Jagged Fang Designs. We've got Torosaurus. Now I really like the detail on this one, especially with the small scales and such. That looks quite good. You can see a lot of the changes compared to the original with the what caption mode do. Let's see shorter tail and the skull. I really like how they did these eye spots here, which has been speculated quite a lot. Just because having a big display structure, a lot of animals will often put eye spots as a way to distract predators. The really interesting thing is that a lot of reconstructions of Torosaurus kind of just have a 3 horns like a Triceratops, but what's weirdly known from the fossils is that they have this weird, like, huge boss on the front of their face, unlike Triceratops. And you can see it's got a lot more of a lighter skull. Not as a dense frill. It's kind of like quite a long one. They actually have the largest skull of any land animal known. And yeah, it looks. I really like this one. Nice beak as well. I like the texture. We can see the bigger scales, round and soft, smaller ones on the bottom. Accurate feet as well. Who doesn't? You know how I rap on about the feet. No, I quite like this one. Looks quite good. We'll just watch have a drink. I like this little dewlap here as well, and the wrinkles. Quite a cutie. Now she's gonna make her run off. Have to go meet her if she has the food. Look at this grazing animation though. I love this grazing. You come in and feed yourself. You got the Torosaurus coming in. And I really like these colours as well. Well, you got a clip when I was just explaining the colours. I like these brown earthy tones. So it just feels a little bit more realistic instead of not as saturated as some of the other animals. Especially in the Jurassic World and Julius Tony type. Quite cute. Now we're going to be moving on to something that's actually not made by Jagged Fang Designs, surprisingly. This is a new animal replacing a Laura Titan. This is made by EcoGreen, and I really like how this one came out. So what this here is Plateosaurus, which is an early sauropodomorph from the late Jurassic. Probably one of the most famous of them. And yeah, this one is like just changes a huge amount because you can see there's nothing in the game that really fits it other than the Allosa Titan. You can see here the head's been drastically changed. This is models based off Iguanodon, but it replaces Allosa Titan. You can see the interesting head shape here. Better reflects Plateosaurus. Plateosaurus actually got pretty large, about 10 meters long. But they had huge size discrepancies. It's a very interesting animal to look into. And what's really weird is that if you look at these hands here, they don't walk on four legs like later sauropods. They have these, they're very bipedal. You can see these got these nice claws here. So there was a lot of debate, and there's still a bit of a debate whether it was quadrupedal or bipedal, but a lot of people at the moment at least think it was very bipedal. And it's had big claws too. So this is really very interesting to have in the game, so you finally have a Plateosaurus. Adds a lot of uniqueness to the game, plus he adds like a new sauropod. Getting a bit crowded around here. Yeah, I really like this Plateosaurus. Now you can get two versions of this. You can get the bipedal one, which I have here, which is probably the most accurate, and then you can have the quadrupedal one, which was an option because the EcoGreen decided that, because since it's based on a hadrosaur, and I read pretty much all the hadrosaurs have some bipedal animations at least. They so I think that looks quite nice though. I like how this bend down. Oh, this just makes me want an actual Plateosaurus in the game, because it really does look very different from a lot of the other animals we have. Plus it's just like, how often do you see a prosauropod? There's no other early sauropodomorphs or prosauropods in this game. It really adds some good uniqueness. So the only inaccurate thing I could really say about it is just the stance, because from what we know, a lot of the bipedal dinosaurs didn't stand like kangaroos. They walked more parallel. Their spines were pretty much parallel to the ground, so they didn't have this tripod stance like a kangaroo. But no, this is pretty good. I cannot complain. Now we've got our final big herbivore. Now we've got the coup de grace, Edmontosaurus annectens. Now this is pretty awesome. I really like how this one came out. I really like the colours of it and the patterns as well. We actually know a lot about the soft tissue of Edmontosaurus. We know that it had a very, very keratinous beak like this. We have like good mummies, so we can tell. Let's wait for it to get a better position. There we are. We have pretty good mummies that show that it had a pretty extensive keratinous covering over its beak. We also have a good idea of the patterns as well. These are based more off scale impressions. So pretty much everything from here, we don't know much about the tail. The tail's pretty speculative in terms of patterning, but everything from here is pretty well known with these spots, and you can't really assume colour from that yet, but we know they had these very spots like this, along with the little spikes coming down this the back of him. But I really like this color. Like, just look at this. Look at the color of this guy. I like the earthy browns. Though I like the Saurian one as well, even though it's green. This is quite a nice one. I like this. The only thing inaccurate I can think about it is very recently we found that Edmontosaurus, especially the annectens, had like some sort of pseudo hoof, which is obviously this model's a bit too old to reflect that because it was only discovered late last year. It's still a very interesting animal and pretty good in terms of accuracy. I really like how this one came out. And then along with the Plateo as well. Probably two of the best in the pack, in my opinion. Quite fitting that they sit near together. Plateosaurus is just such an interesting animal. Especially in terms of the evolution of sauropods. I really hope this does make it into the game eventually. So now we've done all the herbivores, we should move on to the carnivores. So first we'll be starting with Guanlong. So here we have Guanlong, which is very similar to Ceratosaurus. Really the only difference is that they're from different places. But yeah, nothing too different about it. You can see the nice crest here and the feathers. You get to see some nice feathers. There's a lot of evidence that these very early Coelurosaurs and small theropods had feathers. So I think this one came out quite well. I think we'll just watch it go for a run. We might go for a drink. Too speedy for us. So this came from the late Jurassic of China. Ceratosaurus was from Europe. But both are, in my opinion, or pretty much, in terms of anatomy, they're pretty interchangeable. So you could just say this is Brontosaurus and that'd be fine. I really like how the textures are a bit flat, but again, older model. Looks quite good though. I like it. I like the colours. A little bit of white and such. Nice crest. A little bit of wonkiness with the pronated hands, but just because of the animations, but it's more accurate with having them facing like that. They're about to clap. So now we're moving on to the next one. We have got Sinraptor. Let me just release it. A Metriacanthosaurus to the park. So it is actually closely related to Metriacanthosaurus from the late Jurassic of China, of course. Even though the name is kind of confusing, you'd say Sinraptor, or it's related to Velociraptor, but no, it's not. It's more related to Metriacanthosaurus. Nope, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Nope. Got about 3 minutes long and still very interesting. I like this, I like the head of it. Got a very interesting crest on it. Slightly more known than Metriacanthosaurus itself. And this pattern's quite cool. And watch it go have a feast. I think this model came out quite well. Oh. He's supposed to tint it, yeah. There we are. I think I was just pressing the wrong buttons. I'm taking a big chunk out. See, a very interesting theropod. Probably actually a better pick for Metriacanthosaurus, because we know basically nothing about Metriacanthosaurus. It's only just a few fragments. We know slightly more about this guy. I think we should move to the next one coming up. Now we have Ceratosaurus. So this one is Ceratosaurus from the late Jurassic Morrison. So we're getting a lot of late Jurassic today. I know some of the proportions of this model had to be changed to fit the rig, like the tail and such, but I actually quite like the face on this one, other than the eye. A bit of a beady eye, but I really like how the crest came out, and I like the coloration, I like the splotch patterning. What's she doing her thing? She quite a beauty, ain't she? She just walking around doing her thing. You gonna go grab a drink? She run into it. I bet we'll meet her out here. Oh. One interesting thing about Ceratosaurus is its teeth. Like, it just has like such a weird looking mouth. Even though tooth slipping is a thing, even accounting for that, it has this really mean look to it. And these interesting crests as well. Looks very nice. I like the look of the Ceratosaurus itself. It's a very interesting theropod. Actually, it has 4 fingers, believe it or not. I should be able to show it when it comes out. There we are. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why Allosaurs are pretty... also have 4 fingers, because they're derived from these Ceratosaurs. Oh, having a angry feast. Nom 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 nom. Run around. And now we've got a... This one is actually done by Black Frog. So we're actually breaking the monotony with not something by Jagged Fang Designs. Here we've got a paleontological edit from Black Frog of the Velociraptor. Now obviously... Obviously, there's 2 things that we're going to say right off the bat that are not accurate about this model. Is the size. It's way too big. This Velociraptor was only about a couple meters long and the size of a turkey. And it should be covered in feathers, but obviously being Jurassic World Evolution, we can't really do that right now. But here we can see all of the changes to the anatomy. So if you just shaved a Velociraptor, this is pretty much what it would look like. You can see the skull's been thinned up quite a bit. A lot more elongated. You can see the hands have been unpronated. So now they're clapping. Ooh. Gonna get me that a good look at you? See the tail's been elongated slightly and the claws have been edited. Let's wait for her to go to grab a feast. That's probably where she's running to. Yep. I think it actually looks quite nice. See a lot of the changes, thinner legs. The ischium has been exaggerated a bit, so tail's elongated. So this is pretty much what it looked like if you took a Velociraptor and shaved it. It's probably the best analogy. Nom nom nom. Let's go and have her run. Quite a nice looking gal. Can't wait for feathers to be added in the game. I know there's some people working on some feather mods, like Digital Duck and such. But this is actually still quite a nice model. So now we've got the largest carnivore in this pack. We've got, well, in this episode, we have got something that's also from the late Jurassic of the Morrison. Lived with Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus, all those guys. So we have here, should be the right one. Here we are. We have, it replaces Allosaurus. We have so this is Torvosaurus, which is found in the late Jurassic of both North America and Europe. And yeah, it's a megalosaur. Got a very, very interesting shape. I really like how this one came out. Now, I know you people say, why has it got feathers? And this was made a few years ago, so at that time a lot of people were going crazy about putting feathers on things, even if in the name of speculation. But as of now, I think if they were to remake this, I don't think they would put feathers on it. Just because feathers were a new thing at the time, people were just wanting to... I think it's a good product of its time, because it just shows how our reconstructions of these animals change as we find more evidence or pop culture changes and such. It's quite interesting. But yeah, in terms of anatomy, it's pretty good. They got pretty big too. They got about 10 meters long, so a pretty big carnivore. Not quite as common as Allosaurus in a lot of places, but still a very nice looking animal. Very successful as well. Probably a bit more, kind of like the Jurassic version of T-Rex, and more because it's a lot more similar with the big head and the bite and such. A lot more than Allosaurus. I like the colours. I like the pattern of this. I like the pattern. It's just the feathers I don't like. But yeah, as I said, product of its time. Still a nicely well-made model. So yeah, here we have Torvosaurus. Is she gonna walk around and do her thing? Plod along. Ta 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 ta. Well, I think that finishes up this video, folks. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'll obviously put the mod links down in the description, and I hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.